You know how it is. You're scrolling through social media and a post pops up. It's promising this secret government refund, right? A hidden tax credit the IRS supposedly doesn't want you to know about. Well, that exact promise, it has gone viral. And it's fueling a massive tax scam that has already cost regular, unsuspecting taxpayers over $162 million in penalties. So you've got to wonder, how did a super niche tax credit meant for farmers and construction crews turn into a viral social media lie? Okay, let's break it down.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the lie itself, then dissect how it spreads online. We'll look at who its main targets are, and then get into the really harsh penalties. After that, we'll cover the IRS's new plan to stop it, and then, most importantly, we'll go through a playbook to keep you safe.
So it all kicks off with a promise that, let's be honest, sounds way too good to be true. Free money from the government, and not for some obscure reason, but for something we all do. Buying gas. This is the bait, and it has hooked thousands of people all across the country.
And this is pretty much the exact script you'd see on TikTok or Instagram. I mean, just notice the language. They use words like secret and they don't want you to know to make you feel like you're getting some special insider knowledge. They're framing this scam as a clever hack to get your money back from a stingy government.
And this just lays out the massive disconnect perfectly. The social media pitch makes Form 4136 sound like some kind of universal gas stimulus for everybody. But the legal reality? Totally different. It's an obscure credit meant for businesses that use fuel in off-road equipment, like tractors on a farm or bulldozers on a construction site. It has absolutely nothing to do with your daily commute.
So how on earth did a niche industrial tax credit become a viral sensation? Well, the answer is kind of a perfect storm of social media algorithms, economic anxiety, and of course, predatory scammers who know exactly how to game the system.
The whole scam really unfolds in 4 clear phases. It starts with the hook, that viral video promising to help you get what you're owed. Then comes the pitch, where a scammer offers to file everything for you, for a fee, of course. Next up is the actual filing, which contains just wildly false information. And finally, a lot of these fraudsters stack other bogus credits on top just to pump up that fake refund even more.
Now, a key player in all of this is what's known as a ghost preparer. These are people who you pay to do your taxes, but they deliberately leave their name and their ID number off the return. The reason is simple and pretty sinister. When the IRS eventually finds the fraud, the tax return looks like you prepared it yourself. All the legal and financial heat comes down on you, while the ghost just disappears with your money.
To give you an idea of just how ridiculous these claims are, let's look at what it takes to get a typical fraudulent refund of around $6,000. The scammer has to claim that you used over 32,000 gallons of off-highway fuel in a single year.
I mean, just think about that for a second. At average gas prices, you would have had to spend over $100,000 on fuel. That's enough gas to drive a pickup truck around the earth almost 20 times. For people who are earning, say, $30,000 or $40,000 a year, these numbers aren't just unlikely, they are mathematically impossible. Now, while this scam really does affect people of all ages, there's a particularly dark side to it: the calculated and predatory targeting of older adults. Scammers see them as high-value targets for a lot of really tragic reasons.
These scammers have a whole playbook for targeting seniors. They assume older folks have assets, like retirement savings. They prey on social isolation to build a false sense of trust. And tragically, they're counting on the fact that their victims might be less likely to report the crime, either out of shame or fear of losing their financial independence.
And to make their pitches sound even more legit, they just invent official-sounding lies. A really common one is the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA. It is completely made up, but by referencing a fake act of Congress, they create this air of authority for their scam. It convinces seniors that this is a real, new government program just for them.
So what happens when one of these mathematically impossible tax returns lands on the IRS's desk? Well, the consequences are swift, they are severe, and they are financially devastating for the people who were tricked into filing. The IRS has the power to issue a $5,000 civil penalty for filing what's called a frivolous tax return, which is basically a return that is, on its face, just plain wrong. And the agency has not been shy about using this power. So far, the IRS has already issued over 32,000 of these $5,000 penalties to taxpayers who fell for this fuel tax credit scam.
You do the math. That adds up to a staggering $162 million in penalties that have been assessed against taxpayers. And that doesn't even count the money they have to pay back from the fraudulent refund, plus all the interest.
And this brings us to a really crucial, unshakable point of tax law. You are always responsible for what's on your tax return, period. Trying to argue that you were tricked by a ghost preparer or misled by a TikTok video, that's just not a valid defense. The liability stays with you.
So the IRS recognizes that just penalizing the victims isn't enough. So they're rolling out a major systematic fix. Starting with the 2025 tax season, they've put a new process in place designed to stop this kind of fraud before it can even get started.
The IRS is basically building a new fraud barrier. From now on, anyone claiming this credit will need a business ID number, not just a social security number. They'll have to list the specific make and model of their off-road equipment, and they'll have to fill out a new table that cross-checks their fuel claims against what's actually realistic. In short, these extra steps are designed to create friction, making it way harder for a casual scammer to just file a bogus claim.
Okay, now for the most important part, what you can actually do. Let's walk through a clear, actionable playbook to protect yourself from these scams and what steps to take if you think you might have already been a victim.
First things first, if you use a tax preparer, you have to vet them. Ask for their PTIN. If they refuse, that is a giant red flag. You can check their credentials right on the IRS website. And here's a golden rule. Never, ever, ever sign a blank tax return. Always look over the final forms to make sure you understand every single credit that's being claimed in your name.
Now, if you realize you've been scammed, you have to act fast. Don't wait around for that dreaded letter from the IRS. Be proactive. You need to file an amended return to take off the false credit, repay any refund money you received, and report that ghost preparer. Taking these steps can sometimes convince the IRS to actually waive those huge penalties.
If there is one thing, just one thing to take away from all this, it's this. When it comes to taxes, there are no secret government loopholes or magic forms being hidden from you. Tax law is complicated, sure, but when it comes to your return, the responsibility is yours and yours alone.
This old mess really forces us to ask a pretty critical question. In an online world that is just saturated with financial hacks and promises of easy money, it's more important than ever to be skeptical and to really think about who you're trusting with your financial well-being.